What a beautiful introduction to get us started there. Thanks, Jamie.
My pleasure. How's it going? All right.
I'm all good, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm quite excited about this.
This is your first Facebook Live, isn't it, Jamie, with us?
I don't believe I've ever done one before, so you'll have to go easy on me. Let me figure out how it goes.
Absolutely, well, you'll be amazing, I'm sure. So, good evening. We've got a few people already tuned in. We're going to do a little bit of waffling, as I usually do, for 30 seconds or so, just to try and get those viewers up to hand over to the lovely Ronnie and to Jamie this week. Jamie joins us, Jamie McCredie joins us as our third tutor, spotlighted on our Facebook Live series, which we started last year, which are going really well. Really pleased with how it's going. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm Natalie. I've been working with Ronnie on some of their digital content and convinced Ronnie to give Facebook Live a go, and it's been going really well since. So hello everybody for joining us. Hello and welcome. We've got a few people already. Steve says hello. Paul says hello.
Hi, Paul, Steve. Yeah.
So everybody's starting to trickle through now. And what we'd all love, is if you can see us and hear us, give us a thumbs up. And also say hello. Pop your name in the comments box.
Lots of very common names there. Yes. Good.
There's Jim.
There's Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah.
Got it. And also tell us where you're viewing from. We'd love to know where in the country you're viewing from, and whether it's warmer than it is here, because Ronnie and I are both freezing. Down in Wiltshire. But this evening's Facebook Live is talking about the fundamentals. And I'm no guitar pro, so that's where I'm going to say I'm going to back out now, and I'm going to leave it to the pros to discuss this evening's Facebook Live. I will probably jump back in about 20 minutes time. Ronnie's going to have a chat with Jamie and talk about some of the courses we've got coming up as well. So Ronnie and Jamie, it's over to you.
Natalie, thanks very much, and welcome to everybody. This is Jamie's first one, as we said, so I think it's fair that I introduce him rather than him introducing himself. Where can I start? I think we met about 6 years ago. I think it was in Euston Station, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, it was. I think it's more than that, but it's a while back now.
7 years ago. Yeah, it's something like that now. Anyway, lots of things have changed in that. The big one, of course, is that you're now a father of 2 young kids, Fran and Gaby.
And I haven't got hair.
And you've got it there, but you shaved it off. But the key thing is, I mean, Jamie's come up through a very, very solid musical background. I think you were something like BBC Young Musician, Guitarist of the Year or something, and around about the turn of the millennium. Performing professionally since then. I mean, the big names that I know about from when we've talked, I mean, there are tons of these things, loads of your own bands as well, and the 606 Club and all the rest of it. But Roisin Murphy, you've mentioned you many times, and then Joe Harrop just recently, the new album's out.
Yeah. Well. Lovely new album, yeah, exactly.
And early days, Kid Creole and his Coconuts. You were in that. I still got the photograph actually of the. Was it the Strat?
I'm not a coconut. I'm quick to say that I'm not one of the coconuts, but I've certainly.
No, but you're a regular with 10 years. Yeah. And then loads of things being going. So I mean, Jamie covers all sorts of things. I mean, we met shredding. I mean, he's a real shredder. He's a really nice, cool jazz player. I've even heard him play a bit of bluegrass and country here and there, just to throw things in. So I don't think there's anything I've not heard you play, Jamie, which is great. And when you were recommended to us by, was Rod Sinclair, wasn't it, up in the Sage?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, talking to you in Euston Station, it was instantly, well, that was the thing for you, because I think you had to come in depth for somebody who couldn't make it. And I think it was the Improvers course that you were on. And since then you did things like rhythm, introduction to jazz, blues to jazz,
gypsy
you've done, and owning a jazz standard. And then on the online side of things, you're branching out into all sorts of things, particularly things like ear training. And then there are other things that are coming up in this series of what we're doing now. I think we met in the summer last year. We met halfway, didn't we? This is when the restrictions were really knocked down. We had lunch together, and you mentioned this thing called, what do you say? Something like, Ronnie, I'd really like to do a regular drop-in where people can just tune in and have a listen, and we'll discuss something very topical or quite, it's very, very, very core to being a musician and a better player. And that's what all these sessions are about now, these music corners with you. And so
that's right.
Today is about really asking you to go into a little bit of detail about that, where you got this concept from, what you're bringing to the table in terms of these music corners, in terms of subject matter, and most importantly, I think, to the likes of us, and I've just seen a whole load of bunch of people there, well, Graham Tony's there, and John Roche, long time attender.
Hello, everybody. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Hi, Paul.
What would you expect them? What would you like them to get out of these sorts of sessions? By these hour sessions with you, what would you like them to do? So, if you want to go into that, what is it about, and what should they get out of it? I suppose.
I will. Well, I mean, the first thing to say is thanks for the A, the introduction, and B, for hosting the project. The idea really is, I tell you what, I'll give you a brief, bring you up to speed very quickly about who I am for those that don't know, and what I think that I might be able to offer that you might be interested in. So long story short, I moved down to London in 2008, having played guitar since I was 12. And the idea when I came down here was to go to do a master's at Guildhall School of Music and Drama, which I did, and then work as a professional session musician and jazz guitarist and see, how far I could go. So that was 13 years ago. Unfortunately, some nice stuff has happened along the way. I've been fortunate to play with Robbie Williams and Will Young, Tokyo Myers. I've played on Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, lots of films and television programs. You've probably heard me.
Have you interviewed the Stig as well?
I have interviewed the Stig, absolutely. And a couple of days ago, I gave Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris a guitar lesson from McLaren just a couple of days ago. Although I was supposed to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so you'd better keep that to yourself. Yeah. But that'll be on Sky next week. But anyway, long story short, the idea was to come down here and work as a professional performer and recording guitar player. So I've been through all of the schools of music and stuff and learnt all the various requisites of a professional musician. And I thought it would be a lovely thing to do, to try to set up a weekly drop-in that we could all come to, where there'd be a topic of conversation per week, where hopefully it might encourage a community of people to get involved who are interested in seeing what they can drop in on. You don't have to be there every week, but you might learn something about sight reading one week. You might learn something about how the chords really work, or what you should be thinking when you're improvising, or how to really play a blues. And I was giving it some thought, and when we had a chat about it, I thought, well, if we made it regular, then people can decide whether they'll drop in or not this Tuesday, or maybe I'll come next Tuesday. It's only a couple of quid. Well, as we said, it's a tenner, I think. And you get, without meaning to sort of self-aggrandize, you get a lesson from someone who doesn't just talk about it, but does it from a day-to-day business perspective. Yeah. Each day, I have my own studio in central London, and I record on, as I say, lots of films, lots of TV. I won't list them, but plenty things you may have heard me play on the television. And over the years of doing that, you start to figure out strategies of what to do in certain circumstances. And I thought it might be a nice idea to be able to pass that on to people at a weekly basis, that they knew when to come, or at least when to expect it.
And we've done quite a few already, haven't we? We started last year, as Natalie was saying, and they've been really well received. So they're only an hour long, and everybody will get something to go away with in terms of a couple of sheets to work on afterwards if they want to.
That's right. Well,
listening to
what
you
I wanted to try and do is, I mean, I didn't want it to sound like it's a lecture, but it's a discussion, if you like, on a certain principle. But everybody has a chance to have their guitar, sit at home, and the good thing is you can switch your microphone off, so I can actually be a human metronome for you and say, right, let's try this as a classroom together. 1, 2, 3, off you go, and everyone can play along. But it's not chaos, it's controlled chaos, but it's really good fun, and it's been quite exciting to bring up things like, did you know the guitar is a transposing instrument? A lot of people don't realize that the guitar, when you read music, the guitar sounds an octave lower than it's written, for instance. Or, you might say, right, let's play a blues in B flat. Well, most people might be used to playing a 12-bar blues in C. So what are the thought processes you'd go through to transpose it and all that kind of stuff? And really what I'm dead interested in is trying to help people figure out that music is really a conceptual thing up here before it gets to your hands. That's the thing I'm particularly excited about.
Right. I'm just scanning as you're talking there to the right to see.
I know there's some amazing comments already. Andy Pennington, that's hilarious.
I know. There's But yeah, if anybody's got any questions while we're talking away about this, because this is a really wide subject matter that would, because nothing's off the cards, is it, as far as these music corners are concerned?
Not at all. And tell you what, you can also, which is about a month out. So you can look down on the website and see what next week's topic will be. Decide if you want to come to that or not. But if you would like to talk about a specific topic, then you can contact. Sorry to nominate you, Ronnie. But you can contact Ronnie, and we'll compile a list of things people would like to talk about.
Well, let's do that this evening. Yeah, why don't somebody please recommend something that we can run, let's say in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. We've got the schedule worked out. So let us know a subject that you'd like Jamie to talk for an hour on and give you some insights. And and I think the key thing is that, I mean, from your perspective, Jamie, you've been teaching for ages now. When you run these sessions, you're really hoping that people take on board actually get the key points you're making, and that they take on board you always say to me, Ronnie, I've done the work. You've actually been in the woods.
You maybe
you have some of that. No, you weren't showing off. But that's basically the people have got to go away and actually put in the effort. And you can't just come on a course and bang, you're suddenly a hero.
I mean, I think the thing is, and for those who are in the comments or who are watching that have had a lesson with me, you'll know I do tend to say the same thing, that the idea is to show you the concepts and principles that you might want to think about to then go ahead and study. It doesn't mean that by the end of the hour's class that I expect everybody to be able to do any of the stuff we're talking about. But you might want to keep a diary from one week to the other and say, well, this is what we did this time, and I'll work on that this week. Spend a week on it, spend a month on it, spend 3 months on it or something. But there is a certain strategy involved that it'll be, we will now and again recover similar ground, but at a slightly higher level. So first we'll talk about the 12-bar blues, and then in a month's time we might talk about the 12-bar blues with jazz changes.
Yeah.
Then we might talk about how you would improvise over the 12-bar blues with jazz changes or something like that. But the best thing, the thing which I would say is you don't have to come to each class to appreciate these. I'm trying to make them bite-sized chunks of stuff that you'd like to then go away and practice. And each one of these classes comes with a PDF, just one page. I set myself the task of trying to fit it all onto one sheet that outlines what we did, who you should listen to hear this sort of stuff, and what you should go and do to try and get it into your fingers.
Do you reckon, Jamie, something's popped up there in the comments. Have you seen from Terry? He's saying how to best structure a practice session. I mean, well, is that a bit
cancel your diary 12 hours a day for the next 6 months.
Excellent.
And practice your A flat altered scale as fast as you can. That's what I did. That was much funnier in my head before I said it. Okay, well, we'll think about that, and I'll come up with a strategy for you. But double stops in their application, yeah, fantastic. We can Marvin Gaye.
We'll do that.
Music with that. Hey, Ronnie, are you keeping a note of these things? So
I am. We also get a transcript of this as well. So I think what we've got coming up are things like circle fifths, caged. The one that you're quite hot on is good tone, getting good tone.
Yeah. Things like, do you know that the angle of attack at which your plectrum hits the strings changes the tone? If you hit your strings diagonally, that's not going to sound very nice. If you hit it completely perpendicular, you can control the tone. Things like when you're playing fingerstyle, if you pluck the guitar so the strings pull away from the guitar and then come back that way, they hit the neck and you get a nasty percussive sound. So there are tricks about, where you can place your hand to sound really good. And these are things that I've learned on recording sessions where, over the 15 years I've been doing it, I've had my ass kicked in every way you can imagine about, they're the right notes, but the tone wasn't good. So, you get beaten up and then you get to a point where you go, right, okay, well, I know the subject matter now. And there's something that can be passed on here, which is learned in the real world. And that can be pretty interesting,
It's
there's some good suggestions here. Melodic way of practicing scales.
See,
when to mix major and minor pentatonic. Ian, that's what next week's lesson is.
Practice, yeah, it is indeed. Yeah. So that's what
next week's course. It's almost like you asked that deliberately. Thanks. Next week's course is major pentatonics and minor pentatonics, and how essentially they're the same, and how you can utilize one in place of the other, and how you can map out the neck. So that's what next week's discussion will be. And then, Ronnie, you said it yourself, following that, I think, is it the week after, we're doing circle of fourths and circle of fifths and how that works. And we're going to talk about the caged system. We're going to talk about tone.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what does it mean if you see a chord called C13? What does it mean if you see a chord that says something like C9 sharp 11 flat 13? All that sort of stuff. Descriptions as to how the harmony works. And then all of these things come from the perspective of training your ear, because ultimately you should be able to look at a chord chart on a book and you should know what the chord sounds like before you play it. That kind of thing. So you can,
remember the other one we've got as well, Jamie. I think is it down to you. We're trying to do these 90-second video answers, aren't we? And one of them I throw at you is, how can we avoid having to carry around massive, big, thick chord books, with diagrams in them? How can we get away from that? Because every time we have one of our residential weekends, people come armed with suitcases full of these things, and there has to be a way of doing it.
There is. The answer is quite simple as well. It requires a wee bit of work, but it's not a lot. First, you learn your scales. So you learn your key signatures and you learn your scales. And then a little bit of study as to how chords relate to scales. And then you can categorize chords as bar chords, major, minor, dominant or diminished, and altered. And those are you can't see my hands. Those are the 5 types of chords. And then with a little bit of work, you map them out across the guitar, and there you go. Job done. Now, that is a very quick thing to say, but it requires quite a lot of work. But you should be able to play a minor 11 chord anywhere on the guitar by knowing what notes are in it.
And where they are on the fretboard.
Indeed, you need to know the fretboard. But these are all things that we're going to talk about. It's all practical advice.
Yeah.
It's hopefully delivered in a fun community manner, and certainly not taking itself too seriously, but from the perspective of real world applications.
So who when you were younger then, who gave you these sorts of insights? Is this just stuff you picked up along the way from lots of great artists, or have you just really worked this all out yourself?
A bit of both. I mean, I started off at 12 just playing by ear. I used to just sit in front of I had a record player. Most guitarists will tell you this, and I just used to listen to Guns N' Roses, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Mark Knopfler, all the folk that you do. But I was a bit of an obsessive weirdo, and I just would say to myself, I'm not gonna get up until I can do this little phrase. So I did that for ages, and then developed my ear to be quite good, but I didn't know the names of anything I was doing. And then I went to uni up north in Newcastle, and I met a lovely guitar player there called James Burkett and Rod Sinclair. They set me on my way initially, and then you just start to go in increasing circles of the more you know, the more you realize you need to know, and the more you understand, which leads you to learn a bit more. And then I have 2 masters actually. I did one in composition at Newcastle University. Then I came down to London and did another master's in jazz performance and composition. So the first one I studied Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and all of that kind of stuff, right up to contemporary 20th century composition. Then when I came to Guildhall, I did the same kind of thing with jazz. And then ever since then, I said to myself, I'm not going to do any more academic study. I'm just going to play. I'm just going to whittle and learn on as I go. And that was about it, really. You learn stuff.
And do you really enjoy, shredding and metal?
Yeah.
Do you really? Oh, man.
I've got it like a Gretsch guitar on today. But I absolutely love it. I love Pantera, Dream Theater, Meshuggah. I love all of that kind of stuff. Although, I have my own way. I'm more of a sort of a Joe Passy kind of Jim Hall kind of player. But, these things, you've got to be able to do it all if you're going to legitimately call yourself a session player. So.
Yeah. By the way, Jamie and I were talking about something just before we started. Anybody who's out there, can you answer this question? Who has heard of The Streets of London as a song? I'm just interested. This is about an age gap here between Jamie and myself, I think. I thought it was very well done. Anyway,
generation.
It's a generation gap, yeah. Anyway, so I think we're probably not far off having to start to wrap up in a minute. If Natalie's probably
doesn't it?
Ta-da!
Magic.
I wanted to leave it going because I found that just fascinating. I could listen to you all day, Jamie, I think, all evening. You're kind of passionate.
Say that now.
Your passion and experience is just, wow, just got me enthralled. I loved it. My little jazz hands there as well.
Andy Pennington is going mad here in regards to what he's after. Robin Ford came into it. There you go. That's right.
Andy,
we did
I'll bear that in mind. altered stuff and outside stuff is good fun. I'll bear that in mind.
And they all know Ralph McTell and Streets of London. They're good lads. Excellent.
Well, I'm glad you all do, and you're having a nice time. That's
Excellent.
all
Good.
As long as that makes you feel better, Ronnie.
It does. It does. It just makes me not feel alone. That's the thing.
It's been a wonderful evening, and what a great chat. Thank you both. That was really, really enjoyable, and everybody who's been watching has enjoyed it as well. So thank you to everybody who tuned in this evening for our latest Facebook Live. We will be back. I have put some links into the chat for Jamie's upcoming music corners, but you can just go to guitarweekends.co.uk/what's on and have a look for all the music corners listed there, and you can get online with Jamie and learn from his mastery. If that's a word. I think it is.
And Shirley's just piped up saying she even sings it. But Jamie, we're going to try and get together in your studios up in where's Battersea somewhere, isn't it?
It's Battersea Reach, right next to the helipad on. It's very nice. And
we'll get together probably with one of maybe Andy or something. But the next one, next Tuesday it is at 7:30. It's not 7 o'clock. It's just these Facebook Lives that we're doing at 7. Well, Facebook Live we're going to try and get as early as possible, but it's 7:30 for all the courses. That's the key point to make at the moment. Okay.
Wonderful. And if anybody's got any other questions, feel free to continue the conversation right through into the evening and tomorrow, and we'll pick it up at some point. And I think I'm going to have to ask Jamie to play us out as you played.
Please.
All right. Okay.
That'd be wonderful.
How does that work? Is it like a fade out kind of thing while I play some nice bossa nova or something?
I really wish it was, but I'm going to let you play and then I'm going to press stop.
Hang on. I don't want metal. I know metal, right?
All right. I'll chill us all out. I'll play. What will I play? A nice little jazz standard. See you later, everybody.
Okay. Cheers, Jamie. Thanks, Natalie.
All the very best, everybody.
We'll all be staying on to listen.
I feel like an exam now. Good night, everybody.